Okay. Am I up? Is this working? Is this working? Apologies, folks. Just trying to make sure everything is set up right. First, okay. Okay. Hello, Mr. Anime 343. Just first time using the StreamYard. So anyway, okay. So hello again, folks. Alex Kogan here. Been a hot minute, a hot nuclear minute, I will say that. And it's been a very, very long time since I've done any movie reviews on my channel. And I couldn't do, and I kind of stopped because YouTube, well, kind of screwed a lot of people over. So I couldn't do them off my iPhone like I used to. So instead, thanks to some other mutuals, including company including 343 here and Omega Katana who's had me on a couple of shows in the past. I learned of StreamYard, so I'm using StreamYard from now on. So yeah. It's back with a big one. As you can tell in the title, Godzilla versus Kong. A rematch upon a rematch. Yeah. This 50, almost 60 years since the very first film. But the King of the Monsters and the Eighth Wonder of the World. They're fighting again, once again, after over half a century. For many G films and Kong G fans and Kong fans, this has been like a decades long wait ever since the original 1962 version. Pretty much everyone has wanted a remake, and Legendary and WB managed to make it happen after a very long time. So yeah, as far as of course, this all started back in 2014, which feels like a lifetime ago. WB and Legendary brought Godzilla back again for a second round after Sony botched the character in 1998. And a bit of a retrospective. 2014, for the most part, I really liked that film. I would say it's not held up in some areas, although I do appreciate the movie. Where that movie, Godzilla was done right. They did him right. I liked the scene, how it was. God damn it. Pardon me, folks. I loved the cinematography for the most part in the theater. Although, to be frank, I haven't really watched that movie in a long time because WB added like a gray filter over it, so it makes it hard to watch now. Yeah, Sony did not do him good originally, but even though I have some issues with the 2014 film, namely the fact that Bryan Cranston's character was needlessly killed off way too early, it did, for the most part, feel like a welcome return for the character, and I was eager for more. But then Gareth Edwards, who originally was going to do the next movie, he left to do Star Wars Rogue One, and he hasn't done anything since, which is sad to say the least. And it was 5 very long years until the second film, King of the Monsters, came out with Michael Dougherty instead directing at the helm. Although, and that movie kind of had it came out, in my opinion, King of the Monsters came out way too late after the honeymoon period for 2014 had long ended. So, and it was also squashed in the middle of a bunch of the summer season with a bunch of Disney movies. So I'm not too surprised that movie didn't make as much as the first film did, which is sad. But I enjoyed it, even though I liked it a lot. They got not only Godzilla right again, they also, within one swing, got King Ghidorah right on the first go. Like, if they did anything great with that film, it was definitely the fact that they got the monsters right again as well. Ghidorah was in there. Rodan was in there. Mothra was also in there. Although I did kind of feel there should have been a. I have, in a way, the MonsterVerse kind of feels like WB trying to do to this what they've been trying to do with the DC heroes, especially. But so I kind of do feel like there should have been another movie in between, but we got what we got, and it did have issues, of course, but I still have fond memories of it. And then in between both those films, we had King Kong finally coming back with Skull Island, which originally was supposed to be a Universal Studios project, but talks went in a different direction, and WB snatched the license. So that was quite something, and they inserted him into the MonsterVerse, so they got an excuse to build up to both Goji and Kong. And I really liked Skull Island as well. Fast track to now, and well, we finally have both the boys in a new film together, updated, and all the Hollywood eccentricities we all know and expect. But how Godzilla versus Kong? How do I feel about thee? Well, for starters, the movie is definitely the best shot, probably next to Skull Island, out of all of the MonsterVerse movies. There's no idiotic gray filter that WB haphazardly implemented. Granted, the 2014 film was, when I watched it in theaters, it was presented fine, but when it came out in Blu-ray and DVD, they added it in, which made it hard to freaking watch. But here, they don't do that. Another problem, there's also no obnoxious weather effects hiding the monsters. Hashtag Team Godzilla, Mr. Anime. Yeah. Speaking of teams, we'll get to that. There's also considerably less cutaways. That was one of the big issues people had with King of the Monsters. Too many incessant cutaways. Like, they don't leave the action to dwell there long enough, which was also an issue with the 2014 film. But here, if you're if you're going to watch this movie for straight up monster action, then this movie delivers, like, in spades. And that's where a lot of the good stuff is. If I'm in the middle when it comes to where I stand with G films in terms of presentation, but we'll get to that a bit. As far as an action movie, as far as a kaiju romp is concerned, this is definitely the best out of them, and in a lot of ways, visually, is an improvement from King of the Monsters and 2014, since you can see everything. They actually find the daylight this time, as James Rolfe has said. And yeah, there's not one, there's or two, there's like several. So how is the general plot? Well, it takes place 5 years after King of the Monsters, and of course many after Skull Island. Kong has, gotten bigger. He's rocking the beard, a Kratos beard now, and but Skull Island has not seen better days. It's kind of gotten worse over there, so they kind of want to move him off the island. The humans want to move him off the island, but they can't, because if they do, they'll risk Godzilla. They'll risk Kong getting Godzilla's attention. But on the flip side, suddenly Godzilla is now attacking people, attacking facilities, specifically run by a corporation called Apex, who are up to some nefarious schemes of the, well, you'll see. And so shit happens. They have to move Kong off the island. also because of another character played by Alexander Skarsgård, I think his name is. Yeah, they're trying to get stuff. He's working for that Apex Corporation because they wanted to go find a thing for their secret project, and hijinks ensue. And yeah, angry AVGN better than Nostalgia Critic changed my mind. Yeah, yeah, I don't disagree. The critic, the nerd has done better. So yeah, it's both in a lot of ways. It's both a direct sequel to King of Monsters, while kind of and Skull Island, with a heaping helping of both new and old characters. And this time Adam Wingard's directing. As far as the characters are concerned, you have Skarsgård as a Dr. Nathan Lind or Land. I thought it was Land. And Rebecca Hall as a Dr. Eileen Andrews, joined up with probably the surprising standout character in the movie, Kaylee Hottle as Gia, who's apparently an orphaned Iwi. The Islanders from Skull Island, apparently they all died off somehow, and she's the only one left, and she can communicate with Kong through the sign language. And so yeah, we got monsters running around and the humans trying to figure out what the hell's happening. And so in a way, it's pretty much divided into two sides in one story. You have the Kong side and the stuff following him, and the Godzilla side with the stuff revolving him. And we get in a lot of that's ways we get like two movies kind of squashed into one. They're trying the Skarsgård and side is like trying. They go to Antarctica and they use which is where King Ghidorah was unleashed, and they go down a hole in like gravity ships into the hollow earth. So it's all very Journey to the Center of the Earth down there with inverted gravity and monsters running around. And speaking of monsters, a lot of monsters fighting, and it's not just Kong and Zilla. There's Kong gets a couple of other fights himself, pretty brutal ones too. Her actress is deaf in real life as well. Yeah, I read the Gia character, and I'll be frank, I consider myself Team Zilla in this movie. But credit where due, King Kong in this movie actually impressed me. Like, I loved him in Skull Island, but here he really, if they were really trying to win me over with him, they they honestly did. He's a straight savage when he fights the other Hollow Earth monsters, like including a giant King Cobra one where he just rips the skull off and drinks the blood of his enemies. And of course, down there they find like a giant throne of some kind with that magic mineral radiation rock that the corporation Apex was looking for, including a battle axe with a Godzilla fin attached to it, which has been seen in the trailers. Really, really made a big headline in the trailers. So that was kind of a thing that they were definitely building up to as well. So, oh yeah, spoilers in case you didn't read the description. A lot of spoilers. So yeah, I don't have a script, folks. I'm sorry. And on the flip side, like I said, Godzilla's attacking Apex, but you also have the Millie Bobby Brown stuff happening at the same time, who is is been following this conspiracy theory podcaster named Bernie, played by who plays him? Brian Tyree Henry, who's kind of a jittery, conspiracy nut, and both she and him team up where they end up kind of bumblingly stumble into the Apex facility where the evil humans were making their little experiment, which is causing Godzilla to go nuts. And in the middle of all this, between King Kong getting transported to where they want him to go and Godzilla acting up, both monsters fight at least, well, 2 times in the movie. Well, actually, they count it as 3, but it's really more like a sea fight than a fight in Hong Kong that kind of is splits into semi 2 fights in a sense. And visually, this movie's very good. Like I said, it's definitely the best shot in all of them. In a lot of ways, this movie comes across as almost like a theme park ride. Like, anyone who's been to SeaWorld with the Wild Arctic ride with the whole moving chamber with the video screen, that's also kind of how the movie felt like at times. They try to go for the whole first person aspects in the vehicle bits, and it kind of has a nice theme park sense of scale to the whole thing, which kind of added to a thrill ride aspect of it that I really enjoyed. Hollywood needs to actually pay attention to the fans more over politics, in my humble opinion. You're not wrong, but it also depends on the movie too, the time and place, And so the first fight, Godzilla and Kong, they fight in the sea, which is a bit of a. Well, here's the thing: the movie is very silly. I'm just gonna say it right there. If you're looking for the deepest movie in the world, this is not even close. This is, as far as I'm concerned, Godzilla movies are divided, and even King Kong movies to an extent, depending on on where they are. I classify them into one of 2 camps: either the serious kind and the very fun, don't take too serious kind. And this is definitely of the latter. And you have the sea fight with Kong and Zilla, and they make it seem where Godzilla definitely wins that round because King Kong is outclassed in the sea, being the ape that he is. And he's like jumping over aircraft carriers, and Godzilla's like skewering through ships like a shark. And then kind of crawls up onto a crocodile, and they both go at it. It's a very wacky but very fun first battle, and they really get the monsters right. Godzilla's freaking ruthless in this movie, and King Kong is just fighting for his life. And then later on, Kong, he goes to Hollow Earth. Godzilla, of course, is bothered by whatever it is Apex is doing, and he ends up in Hong Kong. But he ends up sensing where Kong is upon finding a chamber with that super radiation source or whatever it is, and he uses his atomic breath to drill a hole into the core of the Earth, and it's they really supercharged his Goji after that last movie. They really did. And of course, Kong crawls back up, and both monsters fight again, with King Kong putting up more of a fight with that battle axe, and he's swinging around the buildings using, and he even gets a good couple of hits in Goji. He's like going behind him and smashing his face into buildings. Godzilla, of course, is thrashing him around as well. And it's a very well shot fight in the neon light of Hong Kong. Poor Hong Kong. First the commies take over, and now giant monsters are stomping all over them. They can't catch a break, and they were pretty much stomped on in Pacific Rim too. Now that I think about it, but yeah, they do what they do in the trailer, where Godzilla shoots atomic breath into that axe, which absorbs and conducts the atomic breath. Kong whacks him on the head with it and causes a shockwave and knocks both monsters to the side. And they kind of spin it as Kong winning that fight, but the fight really doesn't end because Godzilla recovers, and then he stomps on Kong for a little bit, and he shouts at him, and Kong shouts back, shouts back. So Godzilla definitely does not kill King Kong in this movie, but he does, get him to submit. But of course, Kong roars back in defiance, and Godzilla just leaves him alone. Okay, you're tougher than I thought. I'll leave you alone. Kaiju 115. Oh, hey, it's my other buddy Andrew. How you doing, man? This is probably my favorite of the MonsterVerse movies. The human characters are still meh. I'm getting to that. Godzilla was a beast. Kong had more personality than in Skull Island, and Mechagodzilla was a powerhouse. Yep, I'm getting to that. They definitely took notes from Pacific Rim with Hong Kong. Yep, they most definitely did, and not just out of the neon. That's for sure. Yeah, King Kong. I really actually, even though I'm Team Zilla again, I honestly rooted for Kong a couple of times, and for a lot of Eagle Eye fans, such as myself, there's definitely references aplenty. You know the meme where in the original King Kong versus Godzilla, where Kong tries to shove a tree down Goji's throat? Well, he tries to do that with the axe, and I clapped. Everyone I know who's watched that has at least kind of said, at that. And I really, really like how both monsters complement each other in this movie, with Kong being much more acrobatic and clearly a land animal, while Godzilla's amphibious and actually, so he's more of a water animal, but at the same time, he's competent on land as well, and he's just vicious in this movie. It's like they added a bit more of a crocodilian like aspect to him, where he crawls on the ground a couple of times and just with all fours just lunges like faster than usual at Kong to get at him. And in a lot of ways, this movie is, yes, it's a remake and an homage to the original film, but there's also a lot more stuff added in there. Doing good, about to head into work. Just thought I'd say hi. Appreciate it, Andrew. Appreciate it. And but yeah, like I said, Shockwave, Godzilla comes in first, gets a second wind, Kong gets knocked out. But that's not, of course, not the end. There's a lot more fighting in this movie. And and on the Millie Bobby Brown side, her character Madison, Madison from the previous movie, she and that Bernie dude, including the kid from Deadpool 2, that actor's back in this movie. They sneaked it in Apex. I lost it when Kong shoved the axe into Goji's throat. Yep. So they go into that Hong Kong Apex facility, where they find out that they've been smuggling skull crawlers from Skull Island to be test subjects for a new monster. Wink, kind of, sorta, and it ends up being Mechagodzilla. Yep, Mecha G is in this movie, and of course they awaken it after with that super element from the Hollow Earth that they find, and turns out that, how in the end, in the ending for King of the Monsters, they showed the one head of Ghidorah that was alive. Well, they got it. Apex bought it off from the villain from that movie, and they used it as a biocomputer to plug into Mechagodzilla. And it of course goes out of control, and Mechagodzilla just bursts out of the mountain in nearby Hong Kong, and now it's Godzilla and King Kong versus Mechagodzilla. So when I say this movie is a rematch upon a rematch, It's because it's got Mecha Godzilla in it, and also in a lot of ways, it's not just a remake of one movie, it's actually a remake of two movies, or two and a half in a sense. And this is where I'm a little bit of two minds here, because on one hand, the movie's called Godzilla versus Mecha Godzilla, but at the same versus King Kong, but and while they do fight through majority of the movie, you do have that third wheel enemy that comes in. So in a lot of ways, it's like Batman versus Superman, except I personally found this way better than Batman versus Superman, since it was a much more enjoyable to watch movie, and it doesn't try to take itself too seriously like that movie did. One last thing to say before I head out. I'm so glad Mechagodzilla is the bad guy again. About damn time. I definitely agree. I definitely agree with that. He's been, Mechagodzilla for a while. Like, he was the villain in the original 1974 movie, and the direct sequel for that, Terror of Mechagodzilla. But in a lot of the other films since then, he's been kind of put up as basically the good guy, with Godzilla, destroying everything, and the humans using Mecha G to stop him. Here, they go back to the old way, but with an unused twist. And so I will say that, Mecha Godzilla's in this movie, and I kind of wish that they saved him for another film instead, but I understand why he's in this movie as well. So I can kind of excuse it in a way. Every time I watch BVS, I always end up falling asleep, but GVK actually kept me entertained throughout the whole movie for the most part. Yeah, like I said, the problem I had with BVS was it's too long. Half the plot ultimately meant nothing and doesn't really go anywhere. Whereas here, there's more going on, and there's a lot more going on in the movies. Keeps you entertained at the very least. And it does not have any qualms with just being a fun movie. And unlike the other film, GVK actually has them fight, in like both acts of the movie. Of course, finally ending it in the third act with Mecha G. And this kind of ties into one of the copious references in the film. Besides the fact that Godzilla, the Mecha G is a villain again, I actually appreciated that they carried over the leftover Ghidorah head. And actually, I'm not the only one who's pointed it out, but I am one of the few who has. They basically reused an unused concept for what was supposed to be part of the plot for the 1993 Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, or Mechagodzilla 2, as it was known in the West, to differentiate them. In which, in the Heisei era, you had with Godzilla versus King Ghidorah, he killed King Ghidorah. Well, more like decapitated one of the heads of Ghidorah, and then they turned him into Mecha King Ghidorah. But then two films later, with Mecha Godzilla 2, they explained that they built Mecha Godzilla out of the remains of Mecha King Ghidorah. But what did not make it into the final film, but was put into the manga adaptation, at the time, was they used the leftovers of Mecha King Ghidorah's programming in order to make Mecha Godzilla function. And what was supposed to have happened was Ghidorah basically took over Mecha Godzilla. So, and just, all pretty much brutalizes the King of the Monsters in that version, or what would have been that version. Moira Kitty says hello. Hello to you too. So to see them carry that idea back, that unused idea back, where Ghidorah essentially, or at least the persona of him, takes over and overrides Mechagodzilla and goes on a rampage on a single-minded attack against Godzilla. I actually liked that. I liked that they reused that idea and carried it over. I honestly did not expect that. A lot of people were thinking that they made Mechagodzilla disguised as the real one early on. Fans were thinking, is that why Godzilla's attacking? It's Mechagodzilla disguised. Well, they didn't do that, but they did do the next best thing, and it was an idea that, funny enough, was reused tangentially with the third generation of Mechagodzilla in the 2000s. The Kiryu saga, I believe it's called. I believe they called it. And so Mechagodzilla, of course, starts overpowering the the real Godzilla in this movie, and the Scars, the human characters, the Kong side characters, Skarsgård and Gia or whatever, they they use one of their gravity vehicles to jumpstart King Kong after he's been knocked out of the game for a little bit. So in a way, it was like a nice callback to the whole electricity angle from the original film, but without doing the electricity gimmick from the original film. And so both monsters tag team Mechagodzilla, and it ends very satisfyingly with King Kong getting his due with tearing the machine apart with his battle axe. And both monsters are like, okay, we're cool now. And Godzilla swims away to the sea. Kong goes to his new home in the Hollow Earth, and Monarch goes and studies him there. And yeah, pretty much. That's pretty much the general story, really. Monkey versus dinosaur versus atomic giant ape versus atomic dinosaur. They both fight and then they team up at the end. Not much more difficult than that. But all the same, so that's the general story and all that, but I will get into fleshing out my positives while talking about the negatives. So overall, what did I like about the movie? Again, it's the best shot one in the series so far. I really liked the cinematography. I will say this for Legendary, they honestly understand the monsters extremely well. They've done Godzilla himself very well. Apparently, there was some weird rule with Toho where they were like, do not make Godzilla emote. Well, frankly, that's a very freaking stupid rule, because I actually like it when Godzilla emotes a bit. I know he's supposed to be a big stoic force of nature, but I do appreciate that Legendary gave him some personality. Like when he's chasing Kong in the Hong Kong battle, you could see on his face like I see you, like he's toying with him. But then when after Kong gets the jump on him, he straight up loses it, and he's like, okay, I'm done playing. And so Zilla's Goji is straight up vicious in this movie when he gets serious, more so than he was in the first two films, and he was brutal in both those films too. And King Kong, they really did him very well. He's very expressive in this movie. He's definitely the one. He's surprisingly the character with the most personality. And I'll be frank, I loved that they gave him, even though he technically, in my opinion, does not really win against Godzilla in the general fight. even though he did get the jump on him a couple of times, and definitely subdued him for about 5 seconds with that shockwave from the axe. I do like that they at least gave him a win, a tag team win against Mechagodzilla, where Godzilla shoots his breath into the axe, and Kong uses his Godzilla spine axe to tear Mecha G apart. And then he decapitates the motherfucker and shouts with it in his hand like he's freaking Conan the Barbarian or something. That got a laugh out of me. And Mecha Godzilla in this movie, yeah, as Kaiju 115, Andrew said, I love that they made him a villain again. And as far as the designs go, I mean, both Godzilla, it's the same more or less design as he was in the previous movie. You know, of course, carried over from by extension 2014. While at the same time, you know, Kong, you know, he got a little bit of an upgrade. He has a beard and he's bigger. Mechagodzilla is the one where I'm a little bit mixed on. Some people like the design, others don't. I'm in the middle of it, where it's like, one critique I hear is that they're clearly aiming for like a Michael Bay Transformers look with him, and I can definitely see why. It has a very Bay Formers look to it, but it's not as ugly. It is ugly, but it's a little more utilitarian, I guess I could say. And you know, he's got a laser breath. He's actually got some interesting bits that are, you could tell, are carryovers from previous generations of Mechagodzilla. He's got like a drill tail of some kind, which I don't think was something from previous generations of Mecha G, but it did kind of it does remind me of the Dragon Zord. Excuse me, Dragon Caesar from Power Rangers or Super Sentai. And he's got like a booster pack on his back that allows him to like jet around. And he's got 2 long arms, very long arms with 4 pincer claws on it, which frankly I don't mind. I don't mind the general look. I think the aesthetic of Mechagodzilla in this movie is kind of ugly, but I don't mind the general look of where they were going for with him. I think he's fine. He for the most part, he's fine. Hell, it definitely looks better than whatever the Polygon anime trilogy was making him look like. And even then, we didn't really get anything out of that out of that version of Mechagodzilla at all. So I'm just, even though I do think he probably would have been better served in another film, I'm at least glad that they had him be a villain again and carried over an idea from a previous film that they couldn't use back then, or chose not to at the very least, for whatever reason. So a Kong fight, 2 Kong and Zilla fighting each other's rounds, and then finally a Mecha G to cap it all off. And yeah, just like in previous films, Mecha G completely dominates the real one. So yeah, he kind of gets assistance, and that is where I would argue that that Godzilla vs. Kong is not just a remake of one film, but but like I said, I'd say it's also 2 remakes, 2.5 really. Half carrying over the idea of Ghidorah taking over Mechagodzilla, while at the same time, the original Mechagodzilla movie had Godzilla teaming up with another monster, King Shiza, or Caesar, or King Caesar in the English dub. So it was like a giant mammalian golem monster teaming up with Godzilla. He's basically based on the Shiza, those dragon lion statues that you see. And both Godzilla and Shiza, I prefer to call them that, just sounds better. They fight and tag team against Mechagodzilla. Well, that's basically what Godzilla vs. Kong does in this movie. They have essentially remade two films in one, especially with the outcome, except, a couple of differences, of course, being King Kong is in this movie, not King Shiza, and Kong is given, you know, his due with decapitating Mechagodzilla, which of course Godzilla did to Mecha G in the original film. So in a way, both characters are square by the end of it. And of course, like I said, the shots are good, the effects are very good. It's definitely the prettiest film to look at. But then we get to what is so there's a lot of good right there. But there is unfortunately some bad aspects, like, or at the very least mixed. Like, King of the Monsters gets a bad rap for its human characters, and I understand why. The problem with that film was it had way too many of them than it knew what to do with. And the script was trying to be Marvel, and, well, doing it badly with like a good couple of characters that didn't need to be there. Did the Sprint character really need to be there? No, he didn't. And his jokes like ruined the mood many times in that movie. Like when they were explaining and revealing that King Ghidorah is in fact a space dragon, just like he was in the old films, which I was also happy they did. The dumbass is like tries to make a joke at his name by making a gonorrhea quip, and it's like completely killed the mood in the movie. There is, of course, slapsticky humor in this movie as well, but it is thankfully toned down to an extent where the jokes don't make me roll my eyes as much. So I'm grateful for that at the very least. Way more grateful for that. But however, there is sadly a bit of an imbalance because once again, we have too many characters that we know what to do with. And one side of the story is frankly the most interesting because of it. Like Alexander Skarsgård and Rebecca Hall and Kaylee Huddle's side of the story is actually the best one, following around Kong. And I really like the whole, sign language, relationship thing they were going with the Gia character and communicating with Kong. I liked that. A lot of sweet moments. And while they're not the most developed characters in the world, I'm fine with that. See, this is one of the problems is, it's the MonsterVerse kind of gets a bad rap from the more hardline critics and even certain G fans, where it's like the humans suck, therefore the movie sucks. I'm going to be frank. I'm straight down the middle when it comes to the whole human story argument with Godzilla movies, and by extension most kaiju movies. Here's the thing. I am perfectly fine with a fun-natured thrill ride Godzilla or Kong or just kaiju movie in general if it's fun and the characters are at least decent in the film. Or I'm like, yeah, you may not be the deepest, most compelling characters in the world, but I don't mind you guys. You guys are cool. I can tolerate y'all trying to survive all the shit happening. So that's one half of the film that definitely fits that aspect. As I am also fine with any of the more serious Godzilla films where the human characters do have more developed. Here's some examples. For the serious camp, I would say, the original 1954, the 1984 remake / sequel to the original film, and Biollante. Those are three that definitely fit that bill. As for the fun but monster movie, even with the not so developed characters but are still fun, the original Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, Godzilla versus the Sea Monster is a definite favorite of mine in that regard. And Godzilla 2000. I love the characters in that movie. So, but the problem with the G versus K is that only one side of the story has the fun treatment, or at least the tolerable treatment, while the other is kind of like hamstrung because the writers sadly did not, Adam Wingard and the writers did not think 5 steps ahead when it came with them. Kyle Chandler's back in this movie as Dr. Mark Russell from the previous film, who honestly I felt was the best, one of the better characters in King of the Monsters, but he's not in the movie as nearly as much as he should have. The whole they were trying to have Millie Bobby Brown carry the film on that side with the whole Stranger Things stuff going on, where it's kind of like the Scooby-Doo gang going around solving the monster mystery of Apex and Mecha Godzilla. But they had it where she's she's running around with Julian Dennison's character Josh, and they run into the Bernie character, the Alex Jones type, with the Kaiju conspiracy theorist dude, and they're sneaking into Apex, and they of course find a Mecha G, and they're of course trying to warn people, and but frankly they should have done that. Should not have been how it should have been, in my opinion. It shouldn't have been that way, in my opinion, is what I mean to say. The Kong side, I wouldn't really change that much. Really, the only character I would say was really a one-note accessory to that side was Isa Gonzalez's character as Maya Simmons, who's the daughter of she's basically one of 3 villains in the movie, and is the daughter of one of the bigger 2, Walter, played by Demian Bichir, Demian Bashir Nahera. I sincerely apologize if I butchered his name, but yeah, she gets whacked by Kong in that, and then on the other side, you have on the the Isa's character gets whacked while trying to get out of the Hollow Earth by, her ship gets killed by Kong when she shoots at him in a mad dash to get out of there as the Kong temple was coming down. Yeah, very smart. Shoot at the big ape and expect him to just let you pass. But yeah, and on the other end, you have the Walter Simmons character with the Millie side, and they frankly should have had Chandler's character be the second character for that side. Have him and Brown and Tyree Henry's character be that side. No, there's no reason for him to have been left out for he's pretty much left out for 90% of the movie. He frankly should have been more in there and doing basically what Josh was doing. I really don't understand why they just wrote Chandler's character off the way they did. They don't Bryan Cranston him off, thank God. But there was clearly more they could have done with him, and I don't understand why they didn't just have him and the Madison character be in working together and finding that Burnett guy. Maybe have him be like, this is ridiculous. Why am I doing this for you? Kind of thing. But eventually he's like, okay, he finally realizes, okay, shit is going on, instead of just having him be sidelined the way they did. And then that goes into the problem with the villains, where the villains in this movie are very one note, which frankly is not foreign to Godzilla movies in general. but there there is one character. Well, frankly, both of them needed it, but they really could have used more development. I I understood the reasons for why the Walter Simmons character made Mechagodzilla, or rather funded the creation of it. I understand why they did it, because in a world where giant monsters exist and can decide on a whim if they want to go, attack people, why wouldn't you want to build your own monster, or in this case, giant monster killing machine to do it? Makes sense, right? That was what Pacific Rim ran with that. So that makes sense. That's enough justification, really. Build your own giant monster to fight giant monsters. However, where they really, really dropped the ball was with Ren Sarazawa, played by Shun Oguri. And no, I am not. I did not speak in tongues. Ren Sarazawa. Apparently, he is the son of Ishiro Sarazawa from the previous two Godzilla, MonsterVerse Godzilla films. Problem is, we're never once. This character was never once introduced or referenced at any point before this, and so he just kind of comes out of nowhere. And okay, his name is Sarazawa, so obviously, and he is a son, as is confirmed. Not in the film, mind you, to be involved in the creation of Mechagodzilla and whatnot. So here's the thing. Half the story feels like it's been left off the cutting room floor. And it's why they should have had Kyle Chandler be more involved than he actually was. Because, okay, you have the son of Sarazawa, of the previous Sarazawa, was basically like, we cannot kill Godzilla and the other kaiju. They're animals. They're just as part of Earth's ecosystem as we are. But then you have the Ren character, who's clearly making a machine that'll kill Godzilla and any other kaiju on the planet, and you do not have any kind of dialogue to talk about it. See, here's the thing. They confirmed Ren Sarazawa off screen, of course, with supplementary interviews and material. So anyone who watches that knows, and of course, granted, I didn't watch any of that. I only know from looking up the character on Wikipedia, and I can easily fill in my head why the character is doing what he is, and it's so obvious. The problem is they don't do it in the actual movie. So anyone who doesn't pay attention to any supplementary material is frankly going to be like, why? Okay, he's named Sarazawa, but why is he making Mechagodzilla? I mean, it's obvious why it is if you think about it. But this is where my whole they did not think 5 steps ahead complaint comes in. You clearly have who is clearly supposed to be the main villain of your story, but you don't give him any kind of story to go with him. So, yeah, I wouldn't even call Ren Sarazawa a one-note character, because there's no character for him to speak of. Simmons is actually the one with more character than him, really. So there was really no excuse for why they didn't give this guy any character at all, because he's literally the villain of the story, standing right there. Like, hey, I created a monster of my own, because should we allow these other monsters to walk around at the risk of killing people? Like, your story is literally standing right there, and they don't do anything with them. So that really disappointed me. So that goes into my complaint when it comes to the human characters, where one side of the cast is fine and is certainly tolerable, while the other, well, with the exception of Millie and Henry's characters, they don't really have much to work with. And Kyle Chandler should have been the third wheel in that group, as opposed to Julian, who frankly his character serves no purpose except for one scene, and even then it's a scene regarding stopping Mechagodzilla that Dr. Russell's character could have done easily. So they could have easily fixed that had it been Madison, Mark, and the Bernie character going and sneaking into Apex. And then, of course, you have them meet with Ren Serizawa and have it be like, wait, your name is Serizawa? Are you related to him? And like, yes. And then have Mark be like, I knew your father. He wanted to preserve the monsters. Why are you building a monster? Why are you building a monster killer to kill Godzilla? And of course, have him and Ren have dialogue. But of course, none of that happens. So you have half the cast is decent with their goings on, while the other half is like kind of spinning its wheels. So that honestly disappointed me. Again, I do find the characters more tolerable than they were in the previous film, but I do wish Adam Wingard, while he did film the monsters spectacularly, I do wish him and the writers had thought more than 5 steps ahead when it came to the humans, because it felt like they were just there to go along for the ride. And here's the thing, I do not at all agree with this rather retarded take that humans in Godzilla movies are useless and they shouldn't be there. I said on Twitter that to demand for a live action Godzilla movie with no humans is a pipe dream, and anyone who's complaining who thinks shouldn't have humans is frankly asking for a pipe dream. Because let's be honest, without the human characters in a Godzilla movie or any monster movie in general, you don't have a story to carry them. You need them. If anything, you should be demanding for the characters to be better written, or at the very least fun enough where you can deal with them and be fine with them. The only way, frankly, I could honestly see any Godzilla movie working without human characters is if you do it one of a few ways. Either do what Disney's Dinosaur did, or what Genndy Tartakovsky's Primal did, and have it be like an animated movie or an animated show at the very least. So that way you have more liberties to get away with, or even to get away with. So it's not just monsters fighting. Yes, I love monsters fighting. We go to see Godzilla movies for the monsters and the fighting, and for the same reason we watch a Batman movie for Batman. It's the selling point. But at the same time, if you don't have everything else to carry it over, then you don't really have a story or a movie to go along with them. At least as far as the live action films are concerned. With an animated movie or a show, you could get away with it, because then you're free to add more characters to the monsters at a much more limited time and on a style that allows it. But with the live action movies, it doesn't work. It does not work. And really the only other way you could probably get away with it is as a mockumentary. Like an hour-long mockumentary movie of some kind, like something you'd see out of Animal Planet or Discovery Channel, like the dragons and shit. That could work. But for your standard giant Godzilla movie or Kaiju movie, Yeah, to say that no, there should be no humans in the movie, that is frankly as equally stupid as any bad take from IGN, honestly. No, to say that the humans do matter in the Godzilla films and to ask them to be better developed is not an IGN take. That is like a common sense take. And while I do think there are critics who are too hard on these movies, including some G fans, I will agree when it comes to having the characters at least be tolerable or fun enough. And if you're failing that, to have them at least be developed characters, and if not that, at the very least, fun characters. You know what I mean? To carry the film. Because if you don't have them, then you have no story to go along with it. And hello, Godzilla, King Kong, especially Godzilla movies and Japanese kaiju movies in general, a lot of the reason why a lot of those movies are the way they are is directly because of the human characters. It's just like in the song from Blue Oyster Cult. History shows again and again how nature points out the folly of man, or however it goes. It's because of the humans messing with nature, like Jurassic Park talked about, that Godzilla or any of the other kaiju exist in any of their respective universes. So, yeah. Uh, you're kind of wrong for saying no humans in a Godzilla movie because you're not ever going to get it as far as the live action films are concerned. And frankly, it's a complaint that I wish people would stop making. Freaking deal with it. Complaining about humans in Zilla movies is like complaining about water being wet. You're not getting rid of it unless you figure out a format that allows for it. So, with that said, again, the human characters I do like a little more, but I do think they are hamstrung with the writers not thinking with how they wanted 5 steps ahead of what they wanted to do with them. Uh-oh. Am I still going? Am I still going? My the YouTube bit stopped, so I'm just making sure. Hold on, hold on. Come on, baby, don't give up on me now. Ugh. Well, the YouTube on my PC just stopped. So let me see. Am I still rolling? Am I still rolling? Okay. For whatever reason, am I rolling? Okay, hold on a second. Okay. Okay, the sorry about that. It's just I'm not just looking at my stream through StreamYard, I'm looking at it through YouTube as well to see if it's still going, and it kind of shorted out, but it's still going. So, but yeah, that's pretty much as I was saying. Yes, the human characters, in my opinion, are better in G versus K than they were in the previous film. But I do feel that half of them were actually given a proper amount to do, while the other half was not given a proper amount to do. And the villain, the one character that had any reason to have development with who, because of how blatantly obvious it was, is not given anything to do. So here's my thing. Legendary has definitely left the door open for more Godzilla and King Kong films in this universe. And I most definitely do want to see more of it. I really do. I do think that, here's the thing. They've gotten the monsters right. They've gotten them right in spades. So I'm hoping that if the movie's doing well enough, and apparently it is doing surprisingly well enough despite the current predicament. Thanks a lot, CCP. Motherfuckers. I do hope the movie does well enough where, and apparently continue the MonsterVerse hashtag, hashtag continue the MonsterVerse trended on Twitter some time ago. So, and Legendary apparently acknowledged it. So, Toho is definitely going forward with their own Godzilla movie plans as well. They've been wanting to do it for a while, as get back in the game as well. Since they did it with, they show they can juggle films together. I'm hoping that Toho renews their contract with Legendary and they continue the MonsterVerse. I do want to see what else they can do with this movie. I really do. It's just the main thing I really want them to really improve on. They've already fixed the issue when it comes to the cinematography. The cinematography is great. The monsters are great. But please, God, please get better writers who plan better, because that's the problem I have with the MonsterVerse when it comes to the main characters. They're because a good chunk of them are good characters, but they're not being utilized as well as I wished. And that's the problem. So I'm hoping that if they do another film, they actually do more with this Ren Zarazawa character and actually flesh him out in the movie, not through supplementary material, in the movie, and have him be a foil for the protagonists. And actually, and speaking of which, have a much more focused cast of characters to follow. We don't need multiple versions of them, multiple characters all over the place, because then it gets a little overbearing. They need to tighten the cast up a bit more. It's not as bad as it was in the last movie, but they do need to do better at planning accordingly and just structuring their sides of the story better. They really should do that. And apparently Zhang Zi was cast for the film to return as Dr. Chen from the previous movie, who I actually really liked. But I understand why she didn't make the final cut, because her character is tied to Mothra in that movie. I was also kind of shocked that they didn't carry another character over. Yeah, I want to see if they plan to bring Mothra back, they need to bring Dr. Chen's character back with Zhang Ziyi. I want to see her again. She was one of the few great characters in King of the Monsters. I want her back, provided that Mothra ends up coming back. And they also missed a perfect opportunity for the Kong side of the story to bring this character back. The Brooks character from Skull Island. Let me look it up. The guy who played Silas Stone in Snyder Cut, who played frickin' the adult version of him in King of the Monsters. Well, the older version of him anyway. What was his name? Joe Morton. Yeah, Joe Morton, yeah, the guy, yeah, Joe Morton. I think that's his name. He played the older version of the Brooks character from Skull Island and King of the Monsters, and he was tied to the King Kong stuff. So I find it puzzling that they didn't bring him over into this movie, considering everything. So that was kind of disappointing. So I hope they bring him back at least to do more. So do more with Mark. Do more with Kyle Chandler's character. Do more with bring back Zhang Ziyi and bring Morton in for his character and have it be strictly focused on those three, and then have your Ren Sarazawa character as the villain. That's what they need to do, in my opinion, for the next Godzilla film or King Kong film, whatever they decide to do with them. Have them be the main characters and only the main characters. I mean, you could probably do more with the Gia character, actually. I wouldn't mind. As far as the King Kong stuff is concerned, I don't mind. I wouldn't mind her bringing her back. Kind of like how I wouldn't mind Daphne King being brought back as X-23 in the X-Men stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of ways you could do another film with those characters with a tighter script. And I really would like to see them do a better job next time. So overall, Godzilla versus Kong, aka a remake of not just one, but also of that movie, but also Mecha Godzilla. I definitely enjoyed it. It's definitely the most fun MonsterVerse movie so far. I definitely recommend it. If you are of the side that just wants to see the kaiju fighting and have fun and don't mind some of the extraneous human bits, it definitely fits on that side of the spectrum as far as the previous movies are concerned. So by all means, if you want to see more good American Godzilla movies, or at least as good as possible, I definitely say give it a watch. And if you want more, I definitely want more. Let them know. Continue the MonsterVerse. But I do. So they got the kaiju right. The cinematography is right. But I would like to see more improvement on the human characters. They're getting a bit there. They're getting there, but they need to make a better planned effort next time. So yeah, the ape and the king of kaiju, they both did well. I loved seeing them work. I definitely plan to give the movie another watch, and that's it. That's my spoiler review of the whole thing. Pardon me if I'm very rusty. Pardon me if I've sounded a little haphazard in this review. I have not done this in a long, long time. So thanks to StreamYard, I have a new outlet to do these kinds of movie reviews again without having to go through without having to worry about being shut out by YouTube. So with that in mind, yeah, I got nothing. Go watch it. It's fun. And if you want a fun Godzilla and Kong movie and watching them beating the shit out of each other and eventually teaming up, definitely watch it. And I hope I hope more Godzilla and Kong stuff happens in this universe with both old and new stories and monsters to go along with them. And if Legendary actually, improves on the human characters a bit more, because they're getting there, but they need a little more. They need a little more of a push there. So I'm Alex Kogan. Thanks for coming to my very very, very scriptless and long-winded review. Comment below. Tell me what your thoughts on this movie is, and if I can improve on anything. Just so Yeah, I got nothing. So I'll see y'all, folks, later. And long live the kings of kaijus, folks. Have a good one. Okay.